Hello, everybody. It is time for Friday. I can't even get my own name right. It's Fri-YAY Par-TAY. I am Candace. I am here and I want to do some teaching today. So, once you get here, say hello. Let me know you're here. But I did have a request. I had a request for a problem that a student had sent in because she couldn't be here today. So I wanted to do that problem. Now, that math problem is going to be on area. So I'll share my screen. But if you have questions, just to stop me, interrupt me, and ask those questions. And of course, you can always reach me via email. So let's get started. I'm going to go to my iPad and I'll talk to you soon. All right, we're doing number 11. We're doing number 11 here. Two adjoining lots contain the same width. Lot 14 is 800 feet deep and lot 15 is 725 feet deep. If lot 15 contains 6.25 acres, how many acres are in lot 14? All right, so it's an area problem. Now, before I get into this, let's just talk about some basics. In order to do this problem, we need to know that area is equal to length times width. That you're just going to have to memorize. I'm hoping that you remember that from 7th grade geometry, but maybe you didn't, maybe you did, I don't know. The other thing we needed to know is the number of square feet in an acre. So we've got 43,560 square feet in an acre. So knowing that I have that piece of information, now I can go about and do this problem. I will be honest, every time I have an area problem, I always draw it out. So that is what I shall do. I got two lots. One is 800 feet deep, the 14, and one is 725 feet deep. Now, in case you didn't know, you see how it says 800 feet and it has 725? This little, what is that? It's apostrophe? That's apostrophe? Yeah, that means feet. And if there was inches, it would be toot. So feet is when it's just one, and this is inches. We just assume you know that, but some people don't know that. I didn't know that when I first started, so I like to tell y'all this. Anyway, this lot is 800 feet deep, and the other lot is 725 feet deep. So let me make two rectangles. They don't have to be perfect. And this would be up here. I'm going to put a road here because we know up here, right there, that would be the frontage. And generally, that's the first number. Like when you're looking at something and they say, oh, this lot is, something by something. This first number is usually your frontage. It's how wide it is, right? So it says they're the same width. So we're going to call this X and we're going to call this X. They're exactly the same. And then we know one is 800 feet deep because deep is how far back it goes. Imagine this was water. If that is water, then we're going, how far back from the ocean or the lake are we going? That's deep. So this one is 800 feet deep and this one is 725 feet deep. We also know that this lot is 6.25 acres. So now I've drawn out everything I need to do this problem. Cool. I'm going to change colors just to make it easier. And I'm going to tell you, when I do a problem like this, I switch everything to feet. If it's inches, I put it in feet. If it's acres, I put it in feet because that's just how my brain works. And we all know I'm a little wonky. And so we're going with it. So I know if there's 6.25 acres, if I multiply that by 43,560, four old ladies going 35 when they should be going 60. Oopsie pie. Helps if I make sure I don't move my screen around. There we go. I'm going to get assuming I calculate it right. Now, if I calculate wrong, I'm sorry. I'm not the world's best calculator person. Just let me know. 6.25 times 43,560 equals 272,250 square feet. I'm going to call this lot B. Actually, we know it's lot 15, don't we? And we know this is lot 14. So we know lot 15 has this many square feet, 272,250 square feet. And I know if that's area, that 272,250 comes from length times width. Well, we know the length, which is how deep, is 725. Right? We know it's 725, and we know that it's our unknown amount of width. Our widths are the same here. We don't know the width for B, or for 15, but we do know the length or the depth, which is 725. So 725 times whatever this X is would give us the 272,250, right? So how do I solve for that? I'm going to go, hey, 272,250 times, oh, not times, hello, pull it together, Candace, divided by 725. And that means the width is going to be 272,250 divided by 725 is 375.5. Now, at any time, if y'all have questions, just let me know. Just go ahead and say, hey. Oh, and as we're doing this, if you have a question you want me to answer next, or a topic you want me to go over, go ahead and put that into the chat. Put it in the chat for me, and then I'll answer it next. So if this one is 375.5, then this one is 375.5, because we know they're the same. Ooh, didn't mean to do that. Meant to do this. They're the same. And it wants to know how many acres are in lot 14. So I can do, and I'll change colors again, for 14, I can do 375.5 times 800. And that's going to give me 375.5 times 800. That's going to give me 300,400. And if I want to know how many acres that is, I take the 300,400 and I divide it by 43,560. And that gives me a final answer of, divided by 43,560, 6.89 acres. And that feels right, because if they're the same width and only slightly different, this lot 14 is only 25, well, not even, it's what, 75 feet deeper? It's not that much. It's going to go. It's going to be a very similar sized lot. So it's 6.89 acres. Hopefully that makes sense. And hello, Marissa. You said, can I go over ownership, like joint tenancy? Of course I can. I would be happy to. So let's go over joint tenancy. And for this, I'm going to skip over to my, in the car. Let me clear it for us. And thank you for your question. Now, I'm sorry, I'm going to make y'all sick for a second. So, we have different types of ownership. I like to think of it in two ways. We know ownership by, I guess, three ways. Ownership by one person, ownership in severalty. I know it says several, but think of sever. Hey, Elena. So you think sever, right? So ownership by one person. Anything else, when it's more than one ownership, I think of it as, hey, there's a lot of people that own it, or maybe there's just fewer people. Like when I think of tenancy in common, I don't think usually, even though it's possible, especially with a condo, like hundreds of people, I'm thinking like, you, me, my best friends, everybody, we're owning it together. So co-ownership is the big like forms of ownership. If you have a condo, then you own the apartment and your co-owners, your tenants in common for the shared areas. Right? So when I'm talking about like co-ownership, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I think of on a big level. However, when you're talking about, it's a smaller group of people, then you've either got tenancy in common, we got the tenancy by the entirety, and then I've got the joint tenancy right here. It's in no particular order. It's just the order I did it. So tenancy in common. In most states, because I can't say 100% that it's in every single state, but 99% of all I know, tenancy in common is going to be the default. That says default. I know it's hard to read. Let's try printing that. There we go. It's the default. If you and 3 people, actually you see it right here. If A, B, and C say, hey, we want to own a property together, then the deed, unless you say something to the title company or the attorney, the deed is just going to be tenants in common. And you can have different amounts of ownership. You can, as long as possession is the same. So maybe C paid for half, and then A and B each paid for a quarter. It doesn't matter. You can have different amounts of interest, but possession, everybody gets to use it the same. And in tenancy in common, if A wants to sell to M, then M now is the owner. So now you got tenants in common of M, B, and C. Cool. And if C were to die, well, now Z could inherit. And now you have M, B, and Z who are your tenants in common. I mean, there is nothing special right here. This is what happens when you've got just more than one owner. Cool. In states that practice tenants by the entirety, you have to be married in order to get this. And the whole point to tenants by the entirety is that you get the right of survivorship. You get the right of survivorship. What does that mean? It means, so if you buy the property while you're married, and then one of the people dies, then the other person becomes a sole owner. This idea of the right of survivorship means when you die, your ownership interest doesn't go to whoever you will it to. Like you can't say, hey, I want my brother to have it. It is the right of survivorship. It is going to your spouse. So that would be tenants by the entirety. And the big one is joint tenancy. Joint tenancy is this idea that you once again get the right of survivorship. You get the right of survivorship. Now, in order to get this, in order to make it, you have to have PITT, possession, interest, title, and time, all have to be equal. So if you have PITT, possession, interest, title, and time, all equal, then you can be joint tenants and you can get that right of survivorship. What does that mean? So if A, B, C, and D each own 25% and A dies, it's going to go to B, C, and D. Their interest is split 3 ways. Their interest is split 3 ways. B owns 33%, C owns 33%, D owns 33%. That's what you got there. That is the right of survivorship. And a lot of students like to complicate it and say, oh, this happens at... Look, if it has the right of survivorship, when you die, it goes to your remaining owners. There are no heirs. No to the heirs. it's going to go to the remaining people. Now, if you don't like that, then you could sell it. Let's say D is like, this is not what I want. I don't want it to go to B and C if I die. D could sell to Q, and now Q is a tenant in common. Why? Because they might have the same amount of interest, but they didn't get it at the same time, and their title is not on the same piece of paper, so they can't be a joint tenant. In order to be a joint tenant, you had to get it at the same time on the same document. Your interest might be equal, your possession might be equal, but you can't be a joint tenant. So, Marissa, let me know if that is what you were looking for. Let me know if that is what you were looking for. And does anybody else have a question that you want me to go over? And I know there's a little bit of a delay, and hopefully, Marissa, you're still there so you can tell me, hey, what's going on? But I'll give it a second. Where's my water? I'm going to grab some water. And I guess if Marissa, back to the math examples. Sure. Perfect. So, KJ Dimple, is there a type of math you want me to do? Sure, we can do more math. Sure, who's got math? Oh, okay, everybody wants more math. Hey, I like doing math this way. So, anybody have a type of math question you want me to do? Commission. All right, I can do commission. Let me find one. Let me find one. Sorry, gonna make you sick again. How about number 9? A home sold for 95% of list price, with a commission being split 60-40 between the agent and the brokerage. Now, I'm going to stop right there. This is the agent and this is the brokerage, because we're just going to go in the order that it reads. And the buyer agent and the listing firm share the commission 50-50. The listing broker received a commission check of $8,465. How much was the home listed for if the commission rate was 6%? All right. So this is going to be a lot of math. Oh, you met a real estate agent. She said her commission split is $1,585. Please tell me that 15 is for the broker and 85 is for the agent. I mean, you could. It is whatever you negotiate. But hey, you do you. I would not take that split. I would not take 15% as the agent. But if that's what makes you happy, you go for it. So what I know is that there is I'm going to change this a little bit. Let's do. I know there was a list price. And then whatever that list price, the sales price was 95% of list. So whatever the list price was, it is 95% of the sales price is 95% of the list price, right? 15 is the broker. Good, Jasmine. Good. All right. That seems a little bit more reasonable. But hey, if that's what somebody wanted, who am I to stop them? As my dad says, if you like it, I love it. Now, from that sales price, there's going to be a commission. And that's going to be a total commission. And it said this total commission was 6%. And whatever that total commission is, that got split 50% to the listing side and 50% to the selling side, which is usually the buyer's agent. And then whatever that broker got, that was split 60% to the agent and 40% to the broker. This is how the money kind of flowed down, right? This is how the money kind of flowed down. So, what do? What we do is we say, okay, well, if the agent got, and here's your number, $8,465, we've got to figure out what the total, what that listing side got. So whatever the listing broker got, if we multiply that by 60%, we would get what the agent received, and we know that agent received $8,465. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, oh, the listing agent got $8,465 divided by 60%. So when I do that math, $8,465 divided by 60%, I'm going to get $14,108. I know that the listing broker got $14,108 for their side of the commission, and then the agent got 60% of that, which is $8,000, and then the broker gets the remaining part. Well, I know that number is 50% of the total commission, so I'm just going to multiply or divide by 50%. I'm going to take that 14,108 and divide by 50%, or multiply by 2, and I'm going to get $28,216.67. $28,216.67. That was the total commission. And I know whatever the sales price was, if I multiplied that by 6%, I would get the $28,216.67. So to find the sales price, I would take the $28,216.67 and divide by 6%, and that's going to give me let's try that again. 28,216.67 divided by 6%. That gives me a sales price of $470,277. Now, I'm just going to leave the change off because it's a long number. That was my sales price. $470,277. And then I'm going to just change color here because why not? I'm still got to find my list price. So whatever the list price was, if I multiply that by 95%, I would get the sales price. And I'm going to take that 470,277, stick that there. So 470,277 divided by 95%, and that gives me $495,000, and it looks like, let's say, 029. That was a lot, but I chose it because it's such a long problem. It is. I chose it because you got to see. I don't think that you all will have something quite that long, although in some states you will, but you get to see the logic behind that. So I forgot who it was that asked if I could do the commission, but I cannot, we covered almost everything they could ask you in a commission problem. Now, KJ Dimple, you said, can I do something where I calculate the interest? Okay. All right, let's do that. And Sarah, I can come back to the void and the voidable. All right. So interest. Let me think about that. Sorry, guys. I know it makes you I don't even like the way it looks when I have to scroll like this. An interest problem would be, that was a points problem. It's interest paid. How about this one? Number 4. If $755.75 is Greg's monthly PI payment, of which $514.30 is interest, at an interest rate of 5.75%, what is the outstanding loan balance? Now, I'm hoping that this is what you're talking about, but we're going to do it anyway. Why? Because that's what you say. So, how do we do this? Well, this problem, if you understand the mechanics behind principal and interest, it's not so bad, right? When you make a monthly payment of $755.75, if it's fully amortized, part of that is going to be principal, and part of that is going to be interest. And the question is, well, how much is, how do I know what part is what? Every time we do or you make a payment, they're doing a calculation. They're looking and they're saying, look, whatever your balance that you owe right now, whatever your current balance is, and when you have a new loan, it would be your full, hey, what did you borrow? If you multiply that by the annual interest rate, you would get an amount of annual interest. Now, it's important to note that I said an amount of annual interest. Why? Because when you're quoted these interest rates, we're basically saying, hey, if you borrowed money for a year, you borrowed it for 12 months, you don't pay me back a single dime during those months. You borrowed that money for 12 months, and at the end of that term, I get all of what I lent you, plus the interest. It would be, that percentage of whatever you borrowed. So if you borrowed, and I'm just going to come up here, if you borrowed $300,000 at, 7% interest, if you borrowed it for a year, if I do 300,000 times 7%, I'm going to get $21,000. That's because I borrowed this money for the year. This is my interest. It's costing me $21,000 because I borrowed $300,000 from the bank for a year. But we're not talking about a yearly payment. We're talking about a monthly payment. We're talking about a monthly payment. So if you borrowed $300,000 for 1 month, I could divide this by 12, and 21,000 divided by 12 is going to be $1,750. If you borrowed $300,000 for 1 month, you would only owe $1,750, $1,750 in interest. Now, hopefully that makes sense. However, now let's apply it to what we've got here on the page. We're looking for this current balance. That's what we're looking for. And I want to make this thick again. We're looking for the current balance. And we know the interest rate is 5.75%. And that means the problem has to tell us an amount of annual interest. The problem doesn't tell us an amount of annual interest. It does, however, tell us an amount of monthly interest. It says 514.30 is monthly. So if I multiply that by 12, I would have how much it would be annually. So 514.30 times 12, that's going to give me $6,171.60. And I can put that there. 6,171.60. And now I can solve for this. So I'm just going to move this down. Whatever the balance is, if I multiply it by 5.75% for annual interest, I would get $6,171.60. So to solve this, I would do 617160 divided by 5.75%. And that's going to give me 617 divided by 5.75%. That's going to give me 107,332 if I calculate it correctly. Let me do that one more time. 6171.60 divided by 5.75%. Yep, 107,332.17. So, is that yay? We're good? Hopefully that helps. And this would make sense whether you were doing this with your first payment or your 219th payment. Every month when you have a fully amortized loan, you pay the same amount. That $755.75 is always the same for P and I. It doesn't include your taxes and insurance. What changes is every single month that you make a payment, how much of it goes to principal and how much of it goes to interest. That's what changes. Now, I had a request for some points, and I know I've got some point problems here. So let me just scroll down a bit. And let's do a simple one first. A bank is charging Meredith 2.75% with 3 discount points on a $175,000 loan. How much will it cost Meredith? The it is the 3 discount points. Now, what do we know about discount points? 1 point, doesn't matter if it's a discount point or any other type of point. If it's finance, if it's a point, it costs you 1% of the loan amount. Thus, and I do like the word thus, 3 points would cost you 3% of the loan amount. So we need to take the loan amount, multiply it by 3%, and we'll get the cost of the points. Well, if our loan amount is $175,000, I multiply it by 3%, that's going to cost me 175. Oop, that's a million. Times 3% is $5,250. To get an interest rate of 2.75%, Meredith had to pay an additional $5,250 at closing to the bank. It doesn't decrease her loan balance or anything. She's just getting a lower interest rate. That's it. So I think that was a couple of you all said, hey, can you do a points problem? Is that what you were looking for? Does that help? Before I move on to another problem, just somebody give me a thumbs up or something letting me know, yes, that's what you needed to know about points. If it doesn't make sense or you had another question about points, let me know. Right? But I kind of like points. And I say that because if they ask you the cost of the points, it's real easy. It's 1% of the loan amount. Now, when they ask you, hey, what does it do? Then, it gets a little more complicated. Then we get into the eighths and stuff, right? And somebody asked me to do somebody asked me to do void versus voidable. Great. I'm going to do this real quick. I'm just going to use this right here. Void versus voidable. So void, I want you to think as never had any power. Never had any power. It was never real. It never had any legal consequences. Kind of like my marriage to Jason Momoa. It's not real. It's all in my head. Jason, if you're listening, we can make it real. We can. We can, hun. Yeah, we can. But it's got no, it never had any legal consequences. Let's say you had 2 6-year-olds. Sign a contract. Was it ever really a contract? No, they're 6. Neither of them can make legal binding promises for anything. It would be a void. I think void contract is the wrong word because it was never a contract. It tried to be a contract, but it just no, it had no effect whatsoever. That is something that's void. If two people, and I don't want to say, but two people who were in um a secure facility for those people who may be mentally challenged. And the courts have said that, maybe they don't need to be making their own personal decisions. If these two people in this very lovely park, maybe they take medications every day. I'm not judging. It sounds like a great vacation. Sign me up. But if they decided to sign a contract, nobody is going to hold them to it because you had to have legal competence. Had to have legal competence to make it work. So, yeah, it never was a contract. That's void. Voidable means, yeah, it is a contract. It is a contract. It meets all of our qualifications. It had mutual agreement. It had consideration. It had, the both parties had legal capacity. And it had a legal objective. Because it had all of those things, that means, yeah, it's a real contract. What happens is when you take a look, when you look a little bit deeper, right? That's not what I meant to do. Boop, boop, boop. These are my eyes. Doot, 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 doot. When you look a little bit deeper, you go, something's not right. Let's see. Boop-a-doop-a-doo. I don't know why I'm feeling like I need to do drawing people today, but hey, I do this for free, so we put up with it. Not quite right. Something's not quite right. They find out that one of these, one or more, is missing. It looked at first like it was good, but when you dig a little deeper, you're like, uh-oh. Now, because we're missing one of these things, you can go to a judge, and a judge would void it. Just in general, it is good. And it's a legal contract. It has all of the different qualifications. But there's something about it where one of those parties could go to a judge and be like, dear judge, actually, that's not true. Actually, we're missing one of these. And then it becomes a voidable. Well, it is a voidable contract. Is it valid? Yes. A valid contract means it has all 4 things. Voidable describes it. Right? A car has 4 wheels. 4-wheel drive describes something about the car. So I don't know if that helps. Now, in a lot of states, not California, it is considered voidable if one of the parties is not 18. Right? That's a good example. If you're in California, it's void. So there you go. Somebody asked me, well, first, are we good with that one? Somebody let me know if I need to go over void versus voidable, which is different than unenforceable. Now that means it is valid, but the courts won't back you up. It has no legal oomph behind it. There you go. I don't know how else to say that. All right, different types of deeds. We can do that. We can do that. Boop. I think the big ones that you most definitely need to know are going to be your general warranty deed, your special warranty deed, your quitclaim deed. And then, as a side note, I'm going to call the trust deed. That one's important too. Comes up a lot. The trust deed. So the general warranty deed, it's sometimes just called the warranty deed. It is the most protective. Why? Because it gives you lots of promises from the seller. The seller saying, look, I promise this is good title. And if it turns out I'm wrong, I'll back you up. I'll fix it. I don't care if the problem happened 100 years ago. I'm telling you, I'm standing behind my product. It's a guarantee. It's kind of like when you go to Nordstrom. Nordstrom is like, oh, you've had the product for 10 years, but it's broken down. Return it. We got you. Now, don't do that to Nordstrom. I mean, if you've used it for 10 years, I think you got your wear and tear out of it. But the fact is, hey, they would do it because they have amazing customer service. This is the Nordstrom of deeds. The seller is promising to be Nordstrom. We will make it better. We don't care about the excuses or see what happened or had been this long. There's something wrong. We're going to do our best to make it right. A special warranty deed is basically the seller saying, I only am covering my actions. This is the seller saying, look, I don't know about the people before me. They a little shady. They a little strange. So if somebody comes and knocks on your door and says, I messed it up as the seller, I will fix it. But if somebody knocks on your door and says a couple owners ago, somebody messed up title, I can't help you. My name is Bennett and I ain't in it. Can't do that. Nope. And then a quitclaim deed. It can be used to just basically, I call it hot potato. I don't need an E at the end of that. Hot potato. It's just basically saying, I have an interest and now you have it. Boop, it's yours. It's a snap of the Thanos finger. Right? It's just snap, it's now yours. I'm not saying that there's no defects in it. I'm not even saying I'm owning it. Because if somebody owes a service provider money for something they did to the house, we know they could put a mechanic's lien on the house. That person who did the service provider, now has a financial interest or financial stake in the house. So if they want to say, hey, you know what, I don't need that interest in the house anymore, the owner paid me, they would use a quitclaim deed. You're literally just quitting your claim. That's it. So, does this help? Oh, yes. Do those three make sense? Because you know you're going to be asked about those three things. You know you're going to be asked about the different clauses in a promissory note. But hopefully that's good. Now, this trust deed is a little different. It is also very common. But we know we use trust deeds is when the seller gives title to a buyer, usually using a general warranty deed. Right? General warranty deed. And then the buyer gives title using a trust deed to a trustee. This is an attorney for the bank. I can spell attorney. Sure I can. They actually now have legal title. Well, why are you doing that? Because the bank, I don't, what is that? Okay, we'll work with this. That's where money goes in. And then they give this money to you. They give you money. In exchange, the buyer's going to give the bank a promissory note. And then the buyer's giving this deed of trust, or this trust deed, to the trustee on behalf of the bank, making this person the mortgagor. It makes the bank the beneficiary, and it makes the trustee the trustee. It's a three-party mortgage. Versus if this was a lien theory state, the buyer would allow the bank to put a lien on the home. The buyer keeps title. The bank just puts a lien on the home. And that's why you have to have judicial foreclosure. There you go. Title doesn't move hands, just the fact that there's a lien. And all of this was tying up to, if we were talking about deeds, once you pay back the bank, they would remove the lien by using, usually, they're going to do a satisfaction of, of the promissory note, but they could also, if they wanted to, give you a quick claim deed to remove any interest they have. They're just saying, nope, no longer involved. Peace out, homies. Bye. All right, did that help? Hopefully, Jasmine, that is what you were looking for. Anybody else have something they wanted me to go over? This was a good 50-minute thing. And I know that I say, hey, guys, give me questions, but I'm kind of getting the feeling like you want me to choose some stuff to go over, which is cool. That is cool. Really, my goal is to give you all access to a teacher if you need it. So for next week, I will make sure I have a couple of topics, or like, ooh, you know what I'll go over? Do you know what might be good? Problem topics. I could choose topics I know students struggle with. Like today, we talked about valid versus void. I know people, they do it. Oh, good, KJ Dimple will do it. And Elena, can I do transfer tax? It depends on the state. So every state has a different rate. So I would, it's usually going to be based off of the sales price. Transfer tax is based off the sales tax, like sales price. I know when I lived in North Carolina, we called it revenue stamps or excise tax. And so it had a standard rate there. Different states have different ways to do it. It just depends. The different types of taxes. Well, you got, when it comes to taxes, you got real property and you got personal property. Hold on 1 second. I am going to have to, I thought I was going to sneeze. Let me see. Don't you hate that feeling right before you're going to sneeze, guys? Okay, no, I'm good. Okay. All right. But we know, sorry. All right, we know we got two types of taxes. You got taxes where you pay a dollar amount, some dollar amount, for every 100 you borrow. And you've got taxes. Okay, what am I doing here? You pay some dollar amount for every 100 of the assessed value. Or you use mills, which is 1/10 of 1 cent. Now, guys, I know, where is everybody with all the questions? I don't know. And I do want to usually go over this with you, but I have a funeral tomorrow before I meet with y'all. And the person who wanted to pick up some stuff is here. And I usually, try to keep my work and my personal life separate. But I got to go take care of that. And since, I'm just doing this kind of for no reason, I got to go. I don't want to make the person wait because they're waiting for me. But if you're coming tomorrow to the session, I will see you then. I will pick this back up. I am so sorry. They're just here a little early. I don't want to make them wait because, it's already a funeral. So hopefully, did this help? I hope so. I'm sorry I had to go. And I will see y'all next time. Thank you for joining me. I love doing this, and I'll catch everybody on the flip side. Bye, everybody. Sorry I got to end early. Bye.